Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful you can join us for another week.
We sure are.
And today we're excited. We have Dennis J. Henson on. He has a career of singular achievement, currently the founder and president of Vanguard Marketing and Investments, and a renowned leader and educator in both the real estate and personal growth industries. He was stumped for a moment when a podcast host asked him, if you could name the one thing that had the greatest impact on your students, what would it be? And then it became clear from him. Form the habit of reading something every day that educates or inspires them. Just as he's personally has done for a lifetime, and that is the core of the philosophy that he has used to inspire thousands of other business people and leaders who desire more out of life, and it has led his profound new book, Real Impact, Daily Inspiration. So welcome, Dennis. We're really excited to have you on the podcast with us.
Yes, we are.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book and share this wealth of knowledge with everyone?
Sure. I had been teaching real estate investing for a number of years, and I had real success. My students were some of the best investors in Texas. Because of that, people would invite me to be on their real estate podcast. And so one day, the interviewer said, Dennis, if you could help my audience and just tell them one thing that you tell your students that causes them to become so successful, what would the one thing be? And I said, well, one of the first things I do is I try to get them to change their habits, because whatever your habits determine what happens in your life. And then he said, well, what is the one habit that you believe will help the most? So I thought for a second and I said, form the habit of reading something every day that will motivate you and inspire you to move closer to your goal. So if you wanted to become an attorney, you'd read something about the law. If you wanted to become a doctor, you'd read about medicine. If you want to become real estate, whatever your goal is, you read something every day that inspires you to move closer to that. So after the podcast was over, I thought, that was a pretty good answer. Great. Wouldn't it be great if there were a tool to help people form that habit? And then it hit me. I mean, it was almost like someone slapped me. I can do that. I can do that. I've been collecting poems and quotes and short stories for my students, and I've been collecting some of those, like the poems and the quotes, for 45 years. And they're really good. I mean, I don't know if you've read some of them. You said you read part of the book. Those are powerful quotes and powerful poems. And then the stories are so motivational. So I thought, well, I've got all this stuff. I'll put it together, and in 3 months, I'll have a book. Well, that was in 2018, and it got published earlier this year. So
Nice.
5 years later, I had too many stories. I had almost 100 stories, and I had to pick the ones, just the best ones, which even made the book better. The ones I left out were great, but these are just fantastic motivational stories, which means it's easy to read. They're easy to read. And the reason that I wanted to have different sizes is because it's not the quantity of the reading that matters. It's the quality. So if you can read something of quality, it could just be one sentence or a poem or a short story. So if you're on a trip and you're waiting for an airplane, you got 20 minutes, you read a short story. Or if you get home and you're exhausted and you're about to go to sleep, oh, I forgot to read, you can read a quote. It takes a few seconds. And that's actually the best time to read them, is right before you go to sleep, because you'll think about that while you're sleeping, and it will change you. Zig Ziglar said one time, little things add up over time. He said, if you could just read 20 pages of a 200-page book every day for a year, you would read 20 books, which is 19 more than the average person. That will set you apart from everyone else. And I truly, well, I know from experience, and I truly believe that doing this is life-changing. I still have my students come back to me after I wrote the book. You can read some of the reviews on Amazon. Some of my students wrote reviews and said, "Oh, you changed my life." And they talk about their experience and what they've done. And it's mind-boggling what this can do for you. And I want to actually give you, the people who are listening today, I want to give you an ebook because I want this book to get out to as many people as possible. So if you go to realimpactbook.com, scroll down to the bottom where it says podcast attendees and click on that. We'll send you the ebook for free.
Oh, thank you. That's very generous of you.
Very much.
Yes. And I mean, it's a wonderful book. I've been really enjoying it. I do like that it's like just short stories. So, in the most part, in the beginning anyways, is I really love that because I can do it on my breaks at work is where I was reading it. And so it's really nice and it's very inspiring. I loved the Steve Harvey one. It not only was very inspiring, but it made me laugh because the premise of it really just him, starting off in these humble beginnings and having a stutter and having the teacher tell him, you'll never amount to anything. Fast forward now he is, and then he sends her a big TV every year so she can watch him on TV. I just loved that. Like, I just thought that's just so impactful, which is really what your book is about, is making that impact. And I also love quotes. I've had a book since I was a young teenager that I've been keeping quotes, and I've borrowed some from your book because they were just so inspiring. And I would agree with you that, reading a little bit of something every day to further yourself is such a great
inspiration
thing.
Yeah.
Well, I also have a dream. I want to have 1 million people have this book, and I want to change children's lives. I want these books distributed in lower income communities, disadvantaged areas. I used to work with schools, and there are a lot of schools who just do not have the budget to put this kind or any kind of book in their library. So I've started a GoFundMe program, and it's also on Real Impact Books. Not books, realimpactbook.com. And there's a link that says help the children. So you click there and you give $1 or $5 or 10 or 100,000, how much ever you want to give. And all of that money, there's no overhead expense. All of the money goes to purchase books to give to disadvantaged libraries and communities and adult centers so that people can learn from this without having to purchase. It'll just be for them for free. So if anyone wants to help with that, any little bit of help would be appreciated. And having read the book, I think you can attest that this is something that will inspire. It will help motivate and change people's lives if they form the habit. The very first part of the book is testimonials from my students. I contacted my students and said, "Can you give me a testimonial?" And they did, and they're really good. I asked someone that read the book, I said, "What's your favorite story?" And they said, "Well, it's the little girl from Brazil." Well, that's not a story. That was a testimonial. She wrote like 2 or 3 pages of a testimonial that she had such a hard time, and she came to America and she lost all her money. And she got a little bit together, and then she gave it all to me to be her mentor. And then she said, "I made 300 times that much." So it was that was an inspiring story, but it wasn't even meant to be a story. And the second part of the book is how to use this book. It tells you how to form the habit. And if you follow that, I promise you, your life will be, if you're sending a rocket to the moon, if you change 1 degree, you miss the moon by tens of thousands of miles. This will change your life 1 or 2 degrees, and you'll end up in a much better place than you would have had you not done it. And I sincerely believe that. I mean, I read a thing one time. It was a guy that worked with authors, and they asked him, "What do the most successful authors have in common?" And I thought, this is going to be great. I want to know the answer. And he said, the most successful authors believe in their book. They sincerely believe that it's going to help people. And I thought, I'm one. I mean, that's me. I really believe that this book will help people because it's helped me and it's helped my students. And it'll help you too if you'll just let it.
So what do you think is one of the most important lessons that you share in the book for people to be inspired and, live this wonderful life?
Well, that's a great question. When I read the book, Think and Grow Rich, there's a list of books in the back. And when I read the book, Think and Grow Rich, all the way through, it said there's this thing that's going to make you better. It's going to make you work, but he never really tells you what it is. He says, you'll discover it as you read the book. I'm going to tell you what it is because it's in this book too. It's called a burning desire. If you have a burning desire, that's 90% of success. The burning desire. Now, the rest is this. I live in the Arlington, Texas, which is right in the middle of Dallas-Fort Worth. And our airport in Dallas-Fort Worth is DFW. So I was looking for an acronym to help with the book. And I came up with DFW and A for Arlington. So the D is desire. You need to have a burning desire. F is faith. You need to believe that what you're doing will work and that you will get there. W is will. As you read these stories, you'll see that these people get knocked down over and over. They get knocked down. I mean, it looks like they can't go on. There's no way, but their will is so strong that they just get up, dust their pants, and go forward. And then the A is for action. Without action, all of the rest is worthless. So if you have desire, faith, will, and action, those are the things that will make life different for you. It'll set you apart from everyone else. You'll be able to achieve goals that before this, you wouldn't have even imagined that you could have done. But I also read something one time that said, a desire is a gift from God. When you really want something, it's a gift. It's yours already. You just have to go out and take it, or you never would have been given the desire in the first place. For example, when I was a kid, I wanted to be in the drum section at Jacksonville State University so bad that I went from a failing ninth grader to making A's and B's through 10th, 11th, and 12th and being accepted in college. It was a desire so strong, I was willing to study even though I hated school. And I even had to take French. I took French and passed. Can you imagine a Southern boy like me speaking French? I butchered it pretty bad.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's one thing that I've often told like my children and my grandchildren and stuff is it's like you can do anything that you want to do. All you got to do is want to do it.
Right.
And you know what? If you want it bad enough, you'll take those steps and doors will open as you go along with that desire and that faith, like you were talking about. So I think that's a really important message to bring forward. And, I loved all the really super inspiring quotes that you had because that's always been something that is driven me is to have these inspiring quotes or ones maybe they're not inspiring, but they just touch you into your heart and just make you sit and think for
Think
a
about
minute.
it, ponder on it for a while. And
Right.
that's good. Yeah. And I think that's what's raising your kids. You put inspiration into them as much as you can. You wanted them to think about these things so that they can succeed in life, right? That's the whole thing when you have children is you want to put them in a way of seeing them do their best always, you know?
Exactly. And you know, if you have children that are graduating from high school or college, or grandchildren, or nieces or nephews, or a friend's child, what could be a better gift than something they'll keep? They'll remember you. It's a legacy gift, but it's also something that if they use it as it was intended, will change their life. And you were instrumental just by giving them a gift in making their entire life better. What could be better for you or them?
Yep.
Absolutely. And I think that's important to leave those kind of legacies behind you because we need to inspire the youth. We need to be inspired every day. So, you know, that's one thing that I ask when I do my morning ritual is like, please show me, how to be inspired, how to live a life of service and go out into the world. And that's something that is important to me because I want to share that wealth, which is in part why we started this podcast to share the wealth of information that we have and then people such as yourself have that can impact the world.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we liked it. We thought it was a good way to say to people, because people don't know all the ways that they can find their bliss. They don't look and they don't know how to even look it up. And so when we were doing this, we thought, we'll give them all these different modalities and possibilities of how they can find themselves. And it's up to them then to follow the course of where they need to, their actions to where they want to go and where they leads them to. So that was our intention, still is,
Yeah.
in what we're doing.
And so how important do you think, like I know for myself, I have a daily ritual and it's very important. And sometimes it's quite interesting because people poo-poo it and they're like, you don't have to do that. I'm like, yes, I do. This is part of how I move forward in life. So can you talk a little bit about that and how important a daily ritual is?
Well, I think it's your habits are your life. And that ritual that you're talking about is a habit that you form. Just like I walk every day and I listen when I'm walking. That's one ritual, okay? And I'll never miss it. I couldn't sleep if I didn't get my walk in, and I'm also learning while I'm walking. I also have a similar ritual to you where every morning I practice gratitude. You know, I list all the things I'm grateful for. If you're waking up and you're feeling depressed or bad, or it's, you got a lot to do, or you have debts coming in, you have problems at business, whatever, you can't be sad and depressed and grateful at the same time. So the longer your list of things you're grateful for, the smaller all these other things are. And life has a way of working everything out. And the more grateful you are, the better life is. You're giving back, you know, if your animal, I have a beautiful little dog. I love my little dog. If he acts really nice and he's grateful, I treat him better. It's just the same way with your children. It's the same way with your family. You love the people who are grateful to you for being you or for doing things to them more than the ones who are not. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is with God or the universe or however you believe. The more grateful you are, the better you feel, the more enthusiastic you are, and it all fits into a better life, to having a happier and better. You don't have to be wealthy. I mean, you don't have to have money to be wealthy. You
Right.
can just be wealthy because you're so happy with the things you have. And then there's people who have a lot of money who are just sad. You see them on TV. You turn on the TV and And there's people that are just upset about politics or upset about this or that or the other. And they're making a lot of money because they're on TV, but they're not wealthy. I'm wealthy. I have some money, but not a lot. But whether I did or not wouldn't make any difference, because when I get up, I'm going to do this ritual of all these wonderful friends I have, my staff, my family, my dog, my daughter's dog. I have a grand dog.
Yeah, we do too.
He's on my list too. So that's something that you can take with you for your entire life. Make it a habit of being grateful and make the list bigger every day. The
Yeah.
longer the list, the happier you're going to be.
Mhm.
Yes, I found this one study or whatever it was, and it was about being grateful. And so it was which I do a gratitude journal, but I do it at night actually, but either way. But it was for 21 days, write 10 things that you're grateful for, but they can't be the same things. So you can't
Wow.
repeat them. So that was very interesting, but it was a good practice because it really stretched your mind to think about really what we're grateful for and how much that we don't
Even
think about on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So it was such a good practice, and I would suggest it to anybody because it does really make you see exactly what you said, just how wealthy and how enriched our lives are. And yes, money is lovely, but knowledge and family and community, health, love, those
Health.
things are
Yeah.
all so much more impactful to be wealthy than actually the dollar signs in your bank account, in my opinion.
I'm writing 3 other books: Real Impact 2 and 3, and The 7 Secrets of Success. And one of those books is the final speech that Steve Jobs made. Now, Steve Jobs was wealthy beyond your imagination, okay, but he was dying. And in his final speech, he kind of made it clear, you know, money is irrelevant. What's relevant is your life and your friends and the things that you really cherish. So, look that up. It's a wonderful speech. It'll make an impact on your life. And that's what I'm looking for all the time. I'm always seeking things that I can put in my book that don't only impact me, but it's going to have an impact on others in their life also.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think like a lot of your stories that I started reading anyways, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and I mean, they're such wonderful stories because they give you so much hope when you read, and it's how hard they had to fight for what they wanted, but they did. And so again, that goes back to what you said earlier, is if you have that desire and the faith and the will, and then just take the action with it. Right?
Right.
I mean, because it's great to have all these thoughts, but if we don't get off our butts and do something about it, that's all they're going to remain is just thoughts,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Exactly. Action part is the real key.
Yeah.
It's not good enough just to want something. You got to get up and go take it. And all the people in the book did that. I particularly like the story of Lincoln. I like the Walt Disney story. Hershey. Well, the truth is, I love all the stories. They're just like my baby. And it's hard to pick one out. But I dedicated the book to some of my mentors who are powerful, really powerful people. And I sent them the book. And one of them wrote me a letter back and said his favorite story was Lincoln. And the premise of the Lincoln story is, was this providence that he became president, or was it just luck? Well, if you read the story, you figure out it couldn't be luck. I mean, there's just no way. It had to be providence, because the chances of all of these 20 different things happening were 1 in 10 billion. I mean, a trillion. There's just no way it could ever just happen. So That's a fun story. I don't know if you've read the Lincoln
I
story
did
yet.
read that one. I thought it was really neat, especially when he gets the barrel that's given to him. Because again, like just like you said, how can that just be luck? I mean, it's like it was a very divinely intervened for him to live and end up the way that his life did, becoming president. So,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it was a very inspiring story.
we say that a lot. We do. We say that a lot. It's not coincidence.
Somebody asked me one time, how do you write stories that are interesting? I said, well, I didn't have to. The stories that I started with were interesting, and all I did was just expanded on them. So there was no doubt they were going to be interesting. But when you get the book, have you ever gone to a movie and at the end of the movie you thought, oh, it was a mystery. If I had just known, I would have been looking for clues. Well, I'm going to tell you, when you get this book, it's a mystery. There's lots of mysteries. So you've always got to be on your toes to think, what is what is it he's hiding that's going to pop up and hit you at the end? And you go, oh my gosh, I wish I had been, it was a mystery so I could have figured it out. Those yet.
Yeah, I think every time you're reading and, expanding your mind, learning, listening to people, I mean, because I think there's always ways to take in this knowledge, is I think you're always expanding who you are and some of the answers that are mysteries to us in life. And, it really reminds me thinking of your acronym and your book and things like that. It's like the law of attraction, and it's that action part, right?
That's
That
bringing that.
everybody was missing from the law of attraction when it came out years and years ago,
That's true, a long
right?
time ago too.
So I think a book like yours is wonderful because it's telling you, keep going, keep trying, don't give up, have that hope, have that faith that you can get to where you need to be, and doors will open for you as you go down if you're open to them.
I agree. Did you have other questions?
I used to always say to the grandkids when they were learning how to walk, you can do this. You can do this. Just keep trying. Keep trying. Try, 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 try. And I was to try to motivate them that not to give up, right? Don't give up
Oh,
yet. Don't give up yet. And it works. It works because they remember these things. And one time with Kimmy, she said to me, "Thanks a lot, Mom." I went skydiving, and so her son was going skydiving. She says, "Thanks a lot, Mom. My kids are following in your footsteps." I think it was just saying I wasn't going to give up on trying to move past all my fears, and skydiving was one of them, sort of thing, of heights and that type of thing. So I just motivated myself to do it. But yeah, she was said to me one thing, "Thanks a lot, Mom." My boys are taking after you. But it just says don't give up on anything, you know? Yeah.
right. I wanted, well, when we were talking, I wanted to talk with you about how the book is set up
Yes,
because
please.
it's not a typical book. It's not meant to be read. You don't pick it up and read it all the way through. If you do that, you're kind of missing the point. The first part is testimonials from my students to show that, well, maybe I know what I'm talking about. But the second part is how to use the book. And if you read that and use it the way that it's outlined, then the next part is long short stories, and then short stories, and then poems, and then quotes. And in the back of the book is a list of a couple of hundred books in priority order. Read this one first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. If you read all of those books, you're going to have so much success. You're going to be so far ahead of all your competition that you'll be unbelievable. How do I know? Well, You couldn't pay someone to read for 45 years and keep a list of the books that actually worked and eliminate the others and put them in priority order. What would that cost? It would be more than you could afford.
Mm.
On my balance sheet, one of the things it asks what's your assets? And under intellectual property, under assets, I have $1.5 million. Now, that's this book, because the value of the knowledge in this book is worth more than that, but that's probably all I could get the bank to believe. But it's true. This is my most valued possession, and I'm sharing it with everybody for a nominal cost, but for your listeners, it's actually free. But you really, to make the book work, you really have to have either the soft cover or the hardcover copy, because you have to have it with you as a companion. That's hard to do with an ebook. And then, you also need to get one of the other books as a companion book. But I think it's a unique book. If nothing else, go to Amazon and read the reviews. I look at the reviews every day. I hope if you get the book that you'll leave me a review, but read what people say. And I think that may also motivate you to use it as something to help yourself or give as a gift. You mentioned your grandchildren. As you get older, I'm 76, you start thinking about, well, I'm not going to be around for a lot longer. What am I going to leave so that people continue to remember I was here? Well, if you give this book to a grandchild, they'll never throw it away. You don't throw books away, especially this nice hardcover book. I mean, I went out of my way to have it printed on the best paper. I had an artist do the renderings, the colors. It's 4-color. I used to be in the printing business years and years ago, and I know that the satin machine is the very best paper. It's a nice gift. When you give it to someone, it feels like a nice gift. And if they use it, it'll be a great gift for them.
It was interesting this morning on my way here. A friend of mine is also an author. She's written 7 books now. And she was just saying to me today, she said, "You're still going to write a book, right, Barb?" I said, "Yeah, well, I'm still thinking about it." So she goes, "When I wrote my book, Barb, I wrote it, I went and put it into print. And when the first book came and I had it in my hand, she said, I looked at it and she said, the overwhelming feeling I had in my heart, my soul, my stomach, she said, I literally started to cry because it was me. That was me. And it was about me that I believe in that book in front of me." And she said, and it's funny because after you still write your other books, you still have that overwhelming feeling of success, gratitude, all the rest of it. But she said it's just such a warm and wonderful feeling. She said, "Barb, you got to write your book." But she would way she explained it, the feeling that came through her because of what was in her hand and what she could see was what she believed, sort of the same as what you're saying about your book. So yeah, congratulations to both of you, actually.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Which leads me into my question is, what do you have on the back burner that you're going to bring out for future projects?
He's got 2 others in the room.
The Real Impact book, I try not to get political or spiritual. I try to make it so that anyone would pick it up and they wouldn't lay it down, because I did put a little bit of Alabama football in there, and I've already got some poor feedback from some of the other teams, but not much. The book 2 is the same. Real Impact 2 is coming out. It's even better than this one. I've found some really, really powerful stories, and I'm working on that. Then the book 3 is spiritual. 3 is a spiritual number. And I kept finding these stories of miracles in people's lives. And I thought, well, it's such a good story. So I put all those together. And so Real Impact 3 will be, like stories of how hymns came about, and different things that have to do with spirituality. Then I'm also writing a book called The 7 Secrets of Success. And I've been writing on that book for 50 years
Wow.
because when I went into my first mentor told me that there's these things called laws of nature. He says, if you're working with the laws of nature, your life's going to be smooth and everything's going to be wonderful. If you're working against the laws of nature, you're going to have a hard time. And I said, well, where's the book? I want to read it. And he said, no, it's not in any one book. It's in a lot of books. You're just going to have to devote your life to as a search. Like in this book, Earl Nightingale made that search for something very similar. So it took me 45 years to agree with myself that this is really the 7 secrets of success. And now that I have them, I'm putting them together with stories, so it'll be fun. And I think that's going to be an equally powerful book to this one, but that's going to be down the road. But if you want to go to realimpactbook.com and leave your information there, I'll contact you when I do other books.
Oh, wonderful. That's awesome.
Maybe come back on and talk about them as well.
Yes, that would be great. This is fun.
Yeah, well, we would love that because I find it very inspiring, and I loved, it felt like an easy read, which sometimes is a nice thing when you're trying to go through your day and you're trying to read here and there is, sometimes it's nice to have those easy reads, because when it's really long and hard, it's like, oh, okay, I gotta put some time apart for that, right? Which your book is something that, I'd want to pick up because it's an easy, quick read. Like you said, there's shorter stories or longer stories that you can read time, depending on what your time restraint is at that. But yeah, I love it. And I love reading myself. Like that's one thing that I am very passionate about. And I do prefer good old regular book, but I have got into Audibles a little bit just because I'm traveling back and forth to work. And so then it's nice because I'm still getting that information, or like last night when I had to shovel the snow here, I could listen to my Audible book and it didn't make the snow shoveling so tedious.
Yeah.
So will you be doing an audio book? Will your book come out in audio at some point?
It's in audio now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you go to realimpactbook.com and click on buy now, then there's the ebook, the audio book, the soft cover, the hard cover, and I'm also having an app put together so that you can keep up with the ones you've already done and order the ones that you want off the list. So
nice. Oh, that's amazing.
Project plus the GoFundMe project is there too, and please help with that if you get a chance. And if you do get the book, and since Kim, you already have, please leave a review on Amazon, because people, people read the reviews to decide if it's something they want.
That's right.
And so if you like it, tell other people so that they'll want to purchase it also.
Yes, absolutely. Good. Yeah, no. Well, I look forward to finishing the book, but I did start it, and I so far I've been just amazed by it because I love inspiration.
Me too.
Like and I try to find it every day in something when I'm looking around. So to have this book as a friend with you, it's a nice thing, right? Because then you can be inspired by these.
Yeah.
Do you have any personal stories of inspiration that you can share with the followers?
Well, a lot of them. I've been through so much. I guess the most motivational or inspirational one is when I was in school. I hated school. We touched on this before. I didn't want to go. I didn't like it. It wasn't fun. I'm dyslexic and hypertensive. I had all of the ABCs before my name. So I only wanted to play football. And so the first day that football came around, I went out and I got my helmet and I got my shoulder pads and I went out to practice. And my father showed up at school. My father had never been to school. I'd never seen him at school. And I thought, what's going on? And he came out and he took my helmet off and he gave it to the coach. And he took me by the arm and he said, my boy's not playing football. But I only weighed 70 pounds. I was just a little tiny, and he was afraid I would get hurt. So I joined the band and played the drums. And we didn't have a big band and we didn't get to do much. I didn't know much about drumming, but I knew I really liked it. So one day a college band came from Jacksonville State University and put on a concert. And I thought, this is great. I'll have to go to class, listen to the concert. Now, at that time, I was failing every subject. I was in the ninth grade. I had F's, and maybe I had one D, and maybe I had an A in band. So after the concert, the band director said, well, I brought a little treat. I have my marching drum section that wants to put on a little show. And we were in the gymnasium and they went out there and the first thing they did was they reached in their pocket and they put on sunglasses inside and they started playing and oh my God, my brain just exploded. I thought, I'd anything to be in that section. They're so good. They were good. I mean, it was college kids, and I was in the ninth grade. So I went to my band director and I said, how do I get in that? And I remember he says, well, Dennis, you're going to have to go to college. That means you're going to have to start studying. Oh, do I really want it that bad? And so over the next 3 years, I made A's and B's. I went from an F student to making A's and B's, and it took me the full 3 years to get my grade point average up high enough to be accepted into college. But on the fourth year, I was accepted, and I became I got in the drum section, became the drum section leader, and before I left the school, I was the drum major of the Southerners, which in the southeastern United States was a very big deal. I mean, it wasn't easy to do, but it was another thing. I set my goal and I wanted to do that, and it happened. And that's where I learned that the 7 secrets that, you had to go through those 7 things. You had to have a burning desire, which don't even try. If you looking at something, you think, oh, I'd like to do that. That's not good enough. Just liking to do that, you just better get a job and work for somebody else. But if you look at something and you think, oh, I'd do whatever it takes. I'd get up early. I'd work 7 days a week. I'd go to bed late. I'd miss sleep. I'd do without food. I'd do whatever it takes. That's a burning desire.
Yes.
And it's hard to stop someone like that.
Yeah.
My teachers in high school laughed when they heard I was going to go to college. They thought that was funny because, back then in a small town, everybody didn't go to college. Just a few really bright students went on to college. That was in the late 50s and early 60s. And when they heard that I thought I was going to go to college, it was just, they'd smile and shake their head because they didn't think that was going to happen. And I ended up with a master's degree and would have had a doctorate, but I went past the master's degree and took another additional 2 years. And then I was offered the doctoral program at University of Mississippi. And at the same time, I was offered a job at Georgia Tech to be their band director. So I didn't pursue the doctorate. I didn't need it because I could be the band director at a college without it. And then this company hired me to go with them, and I went into business. And I've really never looked back. Business is fun to me. I enjoy getting up, going to work. I enjoy doing this. Everything about it is challenging and fun, and I enjoy making money.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's very inspiring. So Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Go to realimpactbook.com, and then there's a little link that says contact us, and you just put your information there. I'll call you, or you can call me. I'm pretty sure it has my phone number. In fact, I'm probably the easiest person to contact in the world. You can just Google me, and my phone number will probably pop up because I like to talk with people. But now that I'm doing these podcasts and phone calls, it would probably be a little bit less easy to get me, but I'll call you back if you need to talk with me.
Perfect.
Super, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And can you share with our followers, if you had one piece of advice or wisdom to share with them, can you share something with them?
Absolutely. Here it is. Get this book as soon as you can. Read the part that says how to use this book. Make it a part of your life, and it will change your life for the better. I promise it will. I guarantee it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And we really appreciate
It
you
will.
sharing space with us and giving all this information to our followers. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you. And so thank you.
Well, thank you, Kim and Barb. This is a wonderful thing that you're doing. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you're doing that. I appreciate you having me on. I hope that we can do this again in the near future.
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful. So
Absolutely.
thank you. And everybody else, tune in next time.
You bet you will.